Hello, it's Becky here from So Much More. Today I want to talk to you about organic gardening. It's one of the top subjects that I get asked about on my Instagram page, so I thought I'd give you a little bit more of an insight, and I'm going to do my top 5 reasons to garden organically. First of all, I thought I'd start by just defining organic gardening. So, organic gardening in really simple terms is gardening without the use of synthetic chemicals. That's synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, composts, you name it. In reality though, organic gardening is much more than that. And in organic gardening, what we really strive to do is maintain an ecosystem within our garden, an ecosystem that is within balance. It's biodynamic and the garden works for you. Now, I feel like it's important to mention that there are a few drawbacks of organic gardening, because if we're going to be talking about the positives of organic gardening, it's worth mentioning the negatives so that we're well informed about why not everybody does it, particularly not for really large scale practices, and also why organic food is so much more expensive than normal food in some cases. So the drawbacks of organic gardening are that you do get pests, they're slightly more difficult to control, and your yields might be slightly lower as a result of that. And for some people, the work involved in organic gardening is just too much. Again, particularly if you're going to be cultivating a really large area. But the positives to organic gardening are really numerous, and I've had a really difficult time coming up with my top 5 here, because there are so many really good reasons to garden organically. So, without further ado, here are my top 5. So number 5 is that it's cheaper, and some people might disagree with me on this, but hear me out. The reason I think it's cheaper is because we're making our own compost, we're making our own fertiliser, and we're not spending heaps of money on expensive chemicals. Not only that, but we are not buying organic food from a shop. So if we were to buy organic food, it would be more expensive, because it's more expensive to produce simply because the yields aren't quite as high as something that was mass produced in a huge agricultural inorganic way. Number 4 on my list is that organic food tastes better. And again, some people are going to disagree with this, but let's just go with it. And the reason it tastes better is because it hasn't got any nasty chemicals in it. And because the crops are a lower yield, they're going to be putting more energy into those fruits. There's going to be lots more goodness in them, which is absolutely fantastic. And it does taste better with garlic. Organic garlic is such a strong flavour, it's amazing. Same with onions. Everything kind of tastes a little bit more earthy and just a little bit better. Number 3 on my list is that it's healthy. If you're putting food from your garden or your allotment onto your plate, you're not going to have to worry about any chemicals on it. You don't need to even wash your food unless you really want to, because you're not putting anything onto it, so therefore it's not going into you, which is absolutely amazing. So when I see my kids outside helping themselves to my strawberry patch, I'm not worried at all, because I know that there's been nothing horrible going onto it whatsoever. It's all grown organically. There is nothing to worry about there. They can help themselves. But not only is it healthier for us, for our bodies, it's healthier for our minds as well. One of the top things that gardeners talk about loving when they're outside is watching the butterflies go around, or hoeing the ground, tilling the earth. It's really good for your mental health. And what's not good for your mental health is spraying. Spraying plants is just no fun at all. Nobody likes doing it. Gives you hand cramp. It's not good. And one of the best things about having a lovely garden, a lovely allotment that is a part of the ecosystem, is that you get all this beautiful wildlife, which again is absolutely fantastic for your health, just to be outside and experiencing all of that. And it's really wonderful for our children as well. So number 2 on my list is that it's sustainable. And sustainable is such a buzzword at the moment, but really when we're talking about small-scale agriculture, like growing vegetables in your house, in your garden, in your allotment, we really need it to be sustainable, because we can't be putting things into our soil all the time just because we've ruined what was there in the first place. So with organic gardening, we're working from the ground up to make sure that everything's in really good health. We're not going to be using up as much of the soil goodness. We're not going to be killing off the beautiful creatures that help to maintain that health of the soil and the environment, and therefore it is more sustainable. But not only that, we're talking about future generations here, because we're not putting all these chemicals into the groundwater, into the air, into our food, into everything. So if those chemicals are staying in the shops and not coming onto our food, then they're just not getting out there, which is exactly what we want really when we talk about sustainability. Not only that, but you're going to be reducing your plastic usage, because all of these chemicals come in nasty plastic packages. So number one on my list, and most important for me, is that my garden is part of the ecosystem. And what that means is that I've got healthy soil from having it packed full of beautiful detritivores, worms and things. I've got healthy plants who are feeding off the healthy soil, and I've got things like pollinators and birds and hedgehogs and frogs and newts and all those lovely things that is really absolutely beautiful to have in your garden. Now, the pesticides and herbicides and all those things that we can use in our garden are going to kill off the things that are good for our garden as well as the things that are bad. So you might spray something for a pest on your brassicas, for example, but it's going to go down into the soil and it's going to kill the things that make your soil healthier, which then means that you'll have to add a fertilizer to your soil. And the list goes on really. It's kind of like the lady who swallowed a spider to catch the fly. You're just going to create this imbalance in your garden, which in turn leads to more work. So if you've got beautiful worms in your garden, you're also going to have snails. But if you've got worms, you're going to have birds. And if you've got birds, they're going to be controlling the snails. You get where I'm going with this. So for me, it's really important, because we also want to attract loads of pollinators. Without pollinators, we don't get any food, right? We can spend all of this time raising these beautiful plants, and if they're not getting pollinated, what's the point? But if you're spraying pesticides on your garden to control pests, it's also going to be killing off the bees. So we're not going to get anything out of it. And personally, I'd rather have a few holes in my brassicas than no bees. So for me, I really want to create an ecosystem that is dynamic, that works for me, and that I can appreciate the wildlife in my garden. I can appreciate the slugs and snails and frogs that eat them, hedgehogs that eat them, the birds that sing in my garden, all those things. And I can appreciate the fact that my food grows beautifully because I have healthy soil, I'm getting lots of pollinators, and everyone's happy. So thank you for joining me today on my Top 5 Fridays. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more, please hit subscribe. And if you want to come and visit me over on Instagram, come and say hi. It's @SoMuchMore. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.